Is the governing style to use distraction as a tool whenever the president seems to run afoul with regard to official or unofficial actions? The latest with the Russian sanctions may appear to be tough on the Russians and possibly quell some of the argument about Trump and Russian collusion. But is that covering up some other issues? Well, we'll find out about that. We're joined by Dr. William Rosenberg, professor of political science at Drexel University, co-author of News Verdicts, The Debates in Presidential Campaigns, also The Politics of Disenchantment, Bush, Clinton, Perot, and the Press. You can find him on Twitter at DRB Rosenberg. That's Rosenberg. And Dr. Rosenberg, thank you for talking with us.
Good morning.
I guess the reason you're talking about this is that distraction probably is commonly used by politicians to try to cover up something they don't want to talk about. Are we right in making that assumption?
Well, I don't think there's anything necessarily unique about politicians or individuals themselves outside of politics wanting to highlight their strong points and diminish or avoid areas where they feel uncomfortable. However, the President of the United States is in a situation where he can really command attention by simply speaking every day. The media surrounds him. There are often not official press conferences, but sort of call-outs to the president, asking questions, and any comment that he makes has significant impact. What I think has been happening with the president during his governing period is that he is using distraction as a means to sort of diminish or change the headline or change the story on issues that he doesn't feel particularly comfortable about. And you mentioned, for example, the Russian sanctions. What's really interesting about the Russian sanctions issues is that for a long time there's been this debate about whether or not there's collusion between the Trump campaign, even the Trump administration, and the Russians. And Congress acted in 2017 and passed what was called the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. It was passed with almost universal support. The House passed it 419-3. The Senate passed it 98-2. And then it really called out the fact that the United States had to not only be tough on Russia, but also had to make sure that it was controlling the situation in North Korea and Iran. The president, when he got the bill, signed it, but used kind of a signing statement policy where he said, well, I'm going to accept the law, but I'm not necessarily going to do everything that's in the law. And that's where we're seeing that it's taken months before the president has actually come out and started to use sanctions against these Russian oligarchs, even though there was a list that was developed by I believe, the Department of Treasury about 5 months ago, but it wasn't a sanctions list.
So would this qualify as a distraction from, say, the Stormy Daniels thing or some of the other problems he's having?
Well, I think it does, because the idea is that as the pressure mounts with the Mueller campaign, and as we have a day-to-day sort of revelation of another connection between someone in the Trump orbit and the Russians, this perhaps is a way to quell some of that argument that he's not going to be tough on the Russians. The issue about the Stormy Daniels situation is an interesting one as well. Up until now, until just about 3 or 4 days ago, he never commented on Stormy Daniels, and it was only on a flight back from a rally was he asked a question and confirmed that he did not ask his lawyer, Michael Cohen, to make a payment. He did not provide any funds, and he really basically doesn't know anything about it. That sort of opened up sort of a myriad of issues for Stormy Daniels' lawyer, who's now going to be probably more likely to be able to depose him because he has made this public comment. This was a distraction that he was not effective in, because in the past he would simply sort of emerge as some other issue and not even comment. In this case, with Stormy Daniels, he did. But at the same time, we have other actions that come up when he makes statements, for example, about gun control or about immigration. He's really throwing what I would suggest is red meat to his audience of supporters trying to keep the agenda on other things that he wants to talk about, such as immigration, but move away from, for example, the Mueller investigation or other policy issues which he's running afoul.
Talking with Dr. William Rosenberg from Drexel University. Bill, a few minutes ago I was reading one of President Trump's tweets, his most recent one, and he's the first president to really make extensive use of tweets or social media in any regard. And some people say that some of the incendiary tweets that he puts out there are part of a strategy intended to distract from other things going on. Whether it's Stormy Daniels or perhaps the Mueller investigation or whatever. Do you think that this is a deliberate strategy on his part, or is it just him watching Fox and Friends and venting about whatever crosses his mind at the moment?
Well, I think there's a couple of features. First, I would say that Donald Trump was really not the first president to use Twitter. Barack Obama did use Twitter as well, but I agree with you that he did not use it in the same way, that he would not be sending out 6 or 8 tweets in a morning based upon the coverage that is on the television at the moment. So they were very different types of styles. The problem that also occurs is that, his Twitter handle is the real Donald Trump. And that Twitter account basically is coming from the President of the United States. When he makes a statement like that, it is very much a policy directive. So when he's talking about things that he wants to do or people that he wants to fire, it has much more impact than simply commenting on how wonderful it is, for example, that Villanova won the U.S. NCAA championship. He's making policy in those tweets. In addition, he's operating in an age where Twitter is, in some ways, become a little complicit in his approach because they changed the number of characters. It used to be he only had 144 characters to be able to navigate. Now they've doubled the number so he can send out longer tweets. And in case you didn't notice, and I'm sure you did, but maybe some of the listeners didn't, he used to send out continuation tweets. So he'd send out one of 144 characters, and then he'd send out a second one as a follow-up. So Trump has been sending these out, causing quite a stir, making it seem as if he is monitoring everything that's going on in the world and making a policy decision all at the same time. It seemed earlier in his administration that he had people that maybe were helping him with these tweets. In fact, there was actually a person named as the person who was typing the tweets sometimes, but not all the time. But his personal circle is narrowing. When Hope Hicks left and when some of the other people in the White House have departed, he doesn't have that same inner circle of people to say, is this a good idea? Should I be making these statements? And as a result, we're getting probably a clearer view over Donald Trump's perspectives than we have over other presidents. In fact, in one of my classes, and I'm teaching this term in public opinion and propaganda, one of the projects is to analyze Donald Trump's tweets. And surprising, Donald Trump has over 20,000 tweets, an incredible number for any individual. And as a result, you can go back and you can see what was on his mind at a particular day. And you can actually look to see what types of trends appear in his tweets as well. So Twitter is a newer form, not just to Donald Trump, but very much a tool that he uses every day.
Would you say he's doing it effectively?
Well, I think he is doing it effectively to, number one, change the direction of some policy discussions, to move away from areas where he's running into trouble. And at the same time, being able to use it as a catalyst to embrace his base. If you think back, when he ran for president, he made extensive use of Twitter. He made extensive use of free media, for example, television interviews. While there were obviously ads in newspapers and on television, he became kind of the king of free media, and Twitter is another form of free media, unlike, for example, news media, where you're dependent upon a journalist to ask you a question. Hopefully, from Trump's perspective, it would be a journalist that would be favorably predisposed to him rather than critical. But nonetheless, he is very effective at getting out a message every day. You know, the White House for decades has always had this perspective that it wants its message for the day and doesn't want it distracted away from what it considers important. Now we have President Trump issuing his own Twitter message, and I should say that in plural, Twitter messages every day, to be able to get his thoughts out to the public. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why he's been able to hold on to his base. When you look at the public opinion polls, they're getting a constant stream of messages from him that says, don't trust the media, it's fake news, this is the way the world is, this is what we have to do, and this is what I'm going to do about the situations that we're confronting. In the past, the president didn't have press conferences all the time, and as a result, there couldn't be this close feedback between the public voters who were supporters of the president and the president himself.
Dr. William Rosenberg, thank you for talking with us today.
All right. Have a great day.
We appreciate your sharing your insights. Dr. Rosenberg is a professor of political science at Drexel University in Philadelphia, and he's on Twitter himself at DRB Rosenberg.